Okay, hello everyone. This is Leo, Chilean physician and science fiction author, and I know it's been a while since the last time I updated a video, but well, many things were going on around here, so I did not have the time, but I haven't forgotten about this channel, and I do plan on keep on going and making some more material. But well, yes, it's been a while. Basically, what can I say? I was mainly finishing my residency years. Now I can say that I'm finally a specialist. Because as you know, I'm a medical doctor. Now I am a dermatologist and venereologist, which comes, it's part of the specialty. So yes, I'm officially a dermatologist. I'm a specialist. So I was doing that. And also I was working on many literary things as well, with ALCIFF, the Chilean Association of Science Fiction, and also doing some editing. There was a book that came out that I was a general editor, so I was working on that as well. And working with authors and scholars and all that, and doing stuff like that. So basically, between medicine and literature, I did not have the time. Although we all know those are excuses, well, whatever, but here I am. I'm back. Of course, Hulky is also here. He's gonna say hi. Just wait a second. Hello! So here's Hulky. He just took a bath. We were out running for a little bit. Running here inside the apartment place because, of course, it's COVID times and we are quarantined, right? But he's gonna be chilling around here while I record this video, so he's gonna be present. But this is his napping time. He sleeps in the afternoon. Okay, so today's video, it's not gonna be short. I can say that. You know that I usually say that I'm gonna try to make a short video. Well, this time I'm not going to, because I know it's not gonna be short, but I'm really happy to be doing this again. I really hope that those of you who are watching are enjoying this comeback as well. So this video in particular was something that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is an update on something that I'm gonna tell you. And also I had a comment in one of the videos from someone asking me about, updates and stuff, like to talk a little bit again or more about Chilean science fiction. And that person also asked me about science fiction in other countries, but that's gonna be for another video. And basically what I'm gonna do in this one is I'm gonna go through the historical periods of Chilean science fiction. But this time I am going to use the most, the most current. I'm gonna use the names and the information gathered by the scholars specialized in this to give you the most updated version of the periods of Chilean science fiction. So I'm actually gonna try to give you a lot of references. Perhaps I'm gonna put them in the writing place here. So what I want to say, I'm gonna try to be more academic in terms of the words, the names that I'm gonna use for describing Chilean science fiction in history. So I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a very useful video, complementary to the others one that I have made in the past. So what you can see as of now, remember I do have a video in my channel, one of the very first, but that one I'm gonna show here probably. That video, first of all, it was a very low quality, at least the first part, because I was not using a good camera, I did not have a microphone and all of that. And that's a simplified version. It's a very simplified version of Chilean science fiction, because remember, this channel is mainly to talk about this to an audience that's not familiar with Chilean science fiction. That's why I'm That's why I'm saying all of this in English, so it goes further away from our frontiers. So that's one video. And then the longest one that I have, and one that I really like in particular, is the one that the time that I talked about Chilean science fiction with some Colombian friends. Those friends are PhD in literature, so I really got prepared for that. And that's a video that's also here in my channel. It was from the friends from the channel Ciencia Ficcionarios. And there, I talked for 2 hours about Chilean science fiction with a lot of references, a lot of academic rigorosity. So that's my favorite video, but it's in Spanish. And although I love my language, of course, this channel is mainly to be said in this channel I speak in English because that's my purpose, And I did not have a proper video like that one here in English. So this is the time, this is the moment, this is the day when that's gonna happen. So that's what this video is gonna be about, once again. So it's gonna be my update on Chilean science fiction in terms of history. That's something important. This is gonna be a historical video mainly. It's to tell you how the history of Chilean science fiction has developed. I'm not gonna get into literary analysis in the proper way, I mean. And I'm not gonna go into certain works and all of that. This is mainly gonna be a historical update on everything. I think there are no videos out there about this, so I'm really happy to put some of this information out there for future generations. Yeah, right. For some people to find this eventually, and again with the academic rigorosity that it entails, conveys. I don't know. Not sure if I said the right words in English there, but they sounded fancy. Nah, in all seriousness. So that's the idea. So it's gonna be Chilean science fiction, historical periods, their most recent and high quality updates.
Into the fourth dimension.
That's it. Now, once again, this is not gonna be a short video. I will try to put some music and some images in between and stuff like that, so it's not that tedious, it's not that boring. But I know that this video is gonna be for a particular audience and not it's not gonna be like a video that you just watch. I promise to make one of those further on. But this one's not gonna be one of those. This one's gonna be a really cool one. It's gonna be a really interesting video. Yeah, now I'm using the inverse approach because I've been using many negatives, and I'm gonna be positive about this. So this video is gonna be really cool because it's gonna be an update on everything. So that's it. Final recommendation to start this video. This was my whole introduction. Is get a cup of coffee or something like that. Get an energy drink or something natural as you may want. So you can follow me on this journey throughout the history of science fiction in this weird, long, and narrow country that's called Chile. So follow me. Okay. Okay, boom. So, first things first. Here, as I said before, it's gonna be a historical approach. We're not gonna go into literary theory of science fiction. I am gonna do a video about that. I have that on my plans because I think that's gonna be interesting. But we all know science fiction as a literary genre, as a literary form, as literature itself, has a whole discipline, a whole study is dedicated to it, right? So there are different versions. Some people would say science fiction starts at this time, or some other people say no, it's about that time, and then you have the confusion about the name. We're not gonna get into that right now. Here we're gonna use what we commonly know as science fiction, as that type of genre. Okay. So this is gonna be from that perspective. Okay. So not a lot of literary theory, but I'm gonna make that video, I promise. So here let's talk about science fiction as a general term, as that kind of literature that you and me, viewer of this kind of video, know of what we are talking about. Okay, science fiction. So let's do this. So first of all, when we start talking about Chilean science fiction and its history, I have to mention the people that have made this possible. There are many academics, many scholars have worked on this to actually rescue, to rebuild, or to actually build all of this information. So here are their names, and all the credit goes to them for giving us this material. We have Andrea Bell, Moisés Jason, Roberto Pliskov, Macarena Areco, Marcelo Novoa, Macarena Cortés, Omar Vega, y Luis Saavedra. All these names that I have given you are, at least to me, the most relevant in terms of studying Chilean science fiction. They are the ones that have given us most of this material, so they deserve recognition. You can go find about them. Okay, now, the periods of time. This is going to be divided in historical periods. So, of course, when we start with the Chilean history in these terms, let's say in Spanish, of course, Chile has a long history, but let's say about the classic history approach. So we have to go back to the 19th century, right? In the 800s. And the first period of time, the one that has been documented, the name that we use for the first period of time is Origins or Foundation. These names that I'm giving you about the periods are the names that these scholars have used, okay? So I'm giving you all the names that they have used to talk about this period. So the first one, Origins or Foundation, the 19th century, the 1800s. The importance of this period is it's basically that here we find the oldest books or oldest texts that contain science fiction. Of course, this could be argued as proto-science fiction. We're not getting into that. I said that before. Science fiction, you know what I mean. So, oldest period. What's the oldest text that we have till now about this? It's the one that's called, I'm going to say it in Spanish, then I'm going to translate it in English, okay? Una visión del porvenir o el espejo del mundo en el año de 1975. And this book was by Benjamin Tolman. Yes, of course, at those time, British influences or something like that. We're not gonna get into the life of Benjamin Tolman. Anyway, so that's the oldest text that we have. But I say text because it was a very short one. It's about 28 pages. The Chilean library, the main Chilean library, like the National Chilean Library, they have a copy of it, and you can actually download it for free on their website on PDF. So it's really cool. So we can all read that. I have it here. I have read it. It's in my computer, which I think it's awesome. But then, so that book was from 1875, very short. But then we have what we consider to be like the first novel, the first like long fiction work that can be classified as science fiction of some sort. And that's Desde Júpiter by Francisco Miralles, who at that time wrote under the pseudonym Saint Paul. And that book was published in 1877. also available to download it for free on our National Library website, which I still think it's really, really cool. So that's basically the oldest period of time. We don't have a lot of information about that time. Remember, it's the 19th century, but we know that there are some works that were going on, that were happening there at that time. Good. Then, second period of time. This period is known as the Prelude. Not sure where you put the intonation of that word. Prelude or Modern Era. This time they go from the 1920s to the 1950s, particularly 1959. Then I'm going to tell you why. But so this period of about 3 decades, from the 1920s to the 1950s, basically what happened here is that we can finally find the first corpus, the first literary corpus of science fiction. We have enough books at that time to talk about a period. And of course, at that time, the word science fiction was not around here in Chile as the rest of history. But at that time, so we have that place, that moment in time. And basically, the main characteristic of this period of time, if you have to classify it in a way, is that you do not have authors dedicated to this type of literature, but many authors would write one book out of the others that they may have written that is related to science fiction or speculative fiction and that. So you have all these books from different authors, but that they combine create this corpus at that time, which is very interesting. And I could mention several books. I'm particularly gonna tell you, well, there are many important ones, but I'm gonna especially mention the ones that I do have in physical, so I can show it to you, so it can be more interesting. But so let me go get them. Okay, so I am a big collector, by the way. I do enjoy looking for old books, as some friends around here as well. So, books that I can tell you about this period that are relevant. I'm not showing you this just because I have them. They are the relevance of this period, but I could mention more. But let's see. I'm going to tell them by the age of publication. So we have El Dueño de los Astros by Ernesto Silva Román. I'm not going to go into each book, or this video is going to be like 4 hours long. It's going to be like Snyder's Cut of Chilean science fiction. Great book. Very hard to get. You can find some of this author. Ernesto Silva Román. You can find one of the stories translated to English in the book Cosmos Latinos that I mentioned in another video. But so here, 1929, Ernesto Silva Román, El Dueño de los Astros. Short stories, very typical science fiction topics. Then 1934, La Próxima by Vicente Huidobro. What's the important thing about this one? That Vicente Huidobro first was one of our most important poets. Remember, Chile has a lot of famous poets. He was one of the big ones. But he happened to have written a science fiction novel in the meantime. And it's a futuristic novel, basically. It tells a story about in the future, La Próxima. And it has been republished. So there is a new edition. Then we can also mention El Caracol y la Diosa, 1950 by Enrique Araya, which is here. This one's really hard to find, but sometimes every couple of years, like 3 books of this show up and you can go buy it. Anyway, so great book. Also deals with, let's simplify by saying it happens in the future and there's like apocalyptic wars involved. And finally, I'm going to mention this, Un Ángel para Chile de Enrique Bunster, 1959. The other one that I mentioned, this was from 1950. This one is satirical science fiction and it deals with basically Chile. There is someone in Chile that found the cure for baldness, and so that was very successful, and that leads Chile to become like a world superpower. Awesome. Okay, so that's about this period. Now let's go to the third one. Okay, so I'm back to tell you about the next period of time. So, now comes a very interesting one, the third period in this chronological timeline. The third period starts in 1959, as I mentioned before. This period has become to be known as the golden age of Chilean science fiction. Of course, as an analogy of what was going on in the US, or some sort with certain delay. But nowadays, it's most commonly or is usually referred to as the almost golden age. And I'll tell you why. So, to understand this, what's the most important thing about this period of time? This is going to be the time that for the first time, we're not going to have only just books here and there. Now we're going to have authors dedicated to this type of literature that at this time was already, known formally as science fiction, or wasn't the word that was being used by the world. So the author that started this, and that's the main one to give fame to this time, is Hugo Correa. And I'm gonna show you something about him. Wait. Okay, that's what I'm gonna show you. Okay, so importance of this period. First time authors dedicated to this. The main author is Hugo Correa, 1959, and to simplify the importance of him is that in 1959 he published this book. Should I show you the first edition or the last edition? Let's start with the last edition. Okay, so this is you can find this nowadays being reprinted, which talks really good about the book itself. So he published in 1959 this book, Los Altísimos, like the highest one, and it did really, really good. Mainly not in Chile itself, but outside in the science fiction scenario, let's say. It's about a Chilean that gets basically kidnapped into a rogue planet, and he learns about this alien society that lives under the fear of the highest ones, which are other type of beings that kind of control everything without much empathy. That's how I would describe it. So this book was really important. Now I'm gonna show you something that to me is this is really important to me. So I do have a first edition of this, 1959, and it's actually signed by him. Not to me, I was not alive at this time, but that's his pen, that's him, Hugo Correa writing, it says there, Hugo Correa. So this book, I have this one so good. Anyway, so as I was saying, we have Hugo Correa. Why was he so important? Because he got involved with the American movement of science fiction. He actually became a friend of Ray Bradbury, and of course that kind of friendship would allow him to be more known. So basically he got involved with the American science fiction movement, so he became someone kind of known. He really worked on science fiction as the movement it was at that time, and he actually published many books of science fiction. I do have them, but I'm not going to show you all of them, but he wrote many science fiction books, so he was truly an author dedicated to this. But why almost golden age? Mainly because, first of all, he was the main author at that time, and he was the main one being recognized at that time. So basically, this almost golden age, most of it was due to his recognition, although there were great authors with him that I'm going to show you. But you see, we did not have many, not want to say famous or popular, but not many authors like him to really talk about our real golden age, although it's almost our golden age. And also the other thing that's usually used to say why this is an almost is because, as Hugo would say, I mean, he was like the most prolific author at that time, but he could not live out of this. I mean, he would write, but he would publish a lot, but this would not pay the bills. So we kind of say that in order to have a golden age, you should at least have one author to be able to live out of literature, perhaps. So that kind of details are the ones that would say that this was an almost golden age, because of that. But anyway, now looking back and also from that time, we know that there were other great authors at that time. So to mention them, first we have to mention Antonio Montero, another great one. We have this one, Los Superhomos, and we have Acá del Tiempo. I'm just gonna show it to them, but it's classical science fiction in a way. Another one that's really important is this, Armando Benedín, La Crucifixión de los Magos. This is more surrealistic. This gets more into surrealism and science fiction vibes. And also, we have female authors of that time that are being now republished and recognized because they were great authors. And then, for example, we have Elena Aldunate, the main one at that time being recognized. We have short stories here in these collections, Angélica y el Delfín, El Señor de las Mariposas, where you could find, there are some science fiction stories, but they are mostly symbolic and poetic, I would say. But she works a lot with fantasy, I would mention as well, and some realism in terms of local reality. But the book that I really love about her is, this is my favorite, and it has been republished, Del Cosmos las quieren vírgenes, which be like, from the cosmos they want them virgins. This one's great, as you can tell just by the name. So it deals with a rural teacher. It's a teacher from a small town, Chile, between the Andes and the mountains, and she gets in touch with an alien race that would show up as blue butterflies. That's the reason of this, and it's a very interesting exploration of many things. Great book, check it out. And finally, another author that's very important, this is going to be the fifth that I've mentioned, yes, is Hilda Cádiz Ávila. Oh, she's one of my favorites. She's really one of my favorites. This is an anthology of short stories. She was really classical with her science fiction. She really knew what she was writing in terms of that. You can tell that she knew what was going on in the science fiction world. But she put some really Chilean stuff in there that makes it very, very interesting, because you are reading science fiction at that time, but it's a very Chilean, as opposed to other authors that you can say like perhaps they were not that familiar with science fiction outside of the world. So that's the almost golden age period. Several authors, Hugo Correa. And also the thing, nowadays I said that I really like Hilda Cádiz Ávila, and finally this last month was announced that she was going to be republished. So great. Now, fourth period. Now things get a little bit darker. So here, after this kind of a golden age, then we have a period of time that has been named, the name you can find it is Decline and Rebound, or The Hardest Time. And this goes, if the previous one was from 1959, as I said, because of the novel of Hugo Correa, it ended up in the 70s when this period started. And as you may know, the answer is easy. And basically what happens is Chile got into a dictatorship, a military dictatorship at that time, 1973. So you can imagine that the country had a very intense shift, and culture shifted as well. I mean, to get into a dictatorship really changes the country. So this was a very special period of time. The names, the hardest time, it tells about this. And this was from the 1970s towards the 1990s, when we finally came back to democracy. But what can we say about this period of time? So I want to say first, it's obvious that there was a very strong influence of what was going on socio-politically speaking. So that was the main topic in many ways. And this period of time, some scholars, I have to mention here another scholar that I did not mention in the beginning of this video. There is a Chilean scholar that he's got his PhD in literature, but his thesis, his doctorate work, and all his work has revolved around dystopias and utopias, like the utopial studies. And I learned a lot about him. I was with him in a conversation. And I like something that he says. He mentioned, his name is Gabriel Saldias Rosell. I'm going to show you a book of his, because if I'm using his knowledge, okay, so this is a book of him. But this is the guy. Anyway, I don't want to get. Let's come back to this period of time. So what he says is that at this period of time, Chile had a dystopian shift in terms of culture and literature. Actually, he's got really interesting papers in English that you could find in the web. So dystopias, of course, are going to be the ones that are going to mark this period of time. It's obvious. And here we can mention some books. I'm going to go get those books. Wait a second. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. So as I was saying, dystopian shift. The books that we can mention at this time that are really emblematic, that are really important are, let me go in order. First, we have in 1982, La Última Canción de Manuel Sendero. From Ariel Dorfman. Okay, so this is not a proper dystopia. It's a very complicated book indeed. But it's something that has been mentioned to be very representative at this time, so you can have an idea of what was going on. Then we have, also in 1982, we have this one that's called the El Informe Mancini, the Mancini Report, from Francisco Simon. That was his pseudonym. As you can check in the images, you can tell what was going on around here. Okay, so you can imagine. And finally, we have in 1987, this is a really cool one, El Ruido del Tiempo by Claudio Jaque. El Ruido del Tiempo. This is a really interesting one, and here basically you can imagine Santiago, our capital city, divided into new places. This one is a really, really interesting, fun, great read. It's a really great book. So check this out. This is a classic dystopia set in Santiago. Great book at that time. I mean, it was written at the time that this kind of literature would arise in its crudest form, right? Okay, so the other thing that's important about this period of time, the hardest time, is that some academic papers came out that are really important. So here there is an academic moment that's really interesting in terms of Chilean science fiction history. First, we have one paper from 1984 that was written by a French scholar, Remy Moore. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Remy Moore. And basically, the important thing about that paper, that article, well, it was an academic paper, is that so Remy Moore came, remember, 1984, he came here, he analyzed the Chilean science fiction. And basically at that time, he concludes in his paper, he says there is not much Chilean science fiction, and he says probably the only one that science fiction is Hugo Correa, the only one that deserves credit. And he says that for him, Chilean science fiction only started in 1959 with the Los Altísimos from Hugo Rea, and then it died in the 70s, and that's what he said. So that was pretty tough. So you can imagine how that was received. But the thing is that nowadays you could say like, hey, how can you say that? You know, we have a lot of books before. I mean, I've shown you many of them. But at that time, these topics were not analyzed as they are now. You have to remember that. I mean, this is something that we are building currently every day. So when he wrote that, I mean, probably he did not have access to all these other books. I mean, probably what he had at hand was like, you know, probably nothing more than Hugo Correa. And also, of course, when he says science fiction, he's probably thinking about the American type of movement. And we do know that science fiction has different shapes in different regions, but that's for another topic. But Remy Moore said that, and that provoked, that started something in here. It started something, you know, like that energy to say like, hold on, we do have a history. Let's write it down. So that's why it's a very important paper, because it started a whole thing. It started a fire, you know, like of motivation. And also the other very important paper to mention, it was the next year, 1985, and it was a paper written by a Chilean scholar, academic, literary academic, Luis Weissman. And what's the important thing about this paper in particular? That he was, probably still is, probably, could be, perhaps, he's been one of the few, perhaps the only, Chilean to actually write in academic terms about literary theory involving science fiction. He actually wrote an original contribution to genre theory, literary genre theory, and just to say it in a very simplified way. What he proposes, I do not agree with it, but I think it's really interesting that he did that. What he says, in a way, is that actually science fiction could be part of realism and not from the fantastic tradition. You know, if we divide realism and fantastic, he says science fiction is closely related to realism because it always needs that probable, possible element, you know, the plausibility of something. And in that way, he says, we should consider it within realism. Now, that's very interesting. You can imagine, you know? Of course, we don't follow that idea, but he made an amazing contribution at that time. I'm not sure, I haven't known of a well-known new theory that actually contributes to literary theory. So we have that. I do not agree, but it's interesting. And it's interesting because it tells a lot about the academia, you know? Probably around the world as well, but here in Chile, of course, the academia has more material to work with or are more familiar with realism, mainly here in Chile, and magical realism sometimes. But science fiction has always sounded like, you know, like foreign and like not very attractive for academia. Until recently, of course. So you can tell why probably Weissman was saying that let's consider science fiction part of realism. Well, I don't know what the intention truly was, but I think it's very interesting. And of course, and the academia has only recently started like working with science fiction strongly with it. But that's a very interesting thing. So I had to mention it. So let's wrap it up. How's your coffee? It's time to take another coffee, probably. Okay. One last thing I gotta mention about this period. We got our first science fiction club, science fiction association at that time. El Club de Ciencia Ficción, the Science Fiction Club. Good. So the last period I mentioned was the hardest time, or decline and rebound, which basically is characterized by the dystopian shift and by certain academic papers that are very relevant. And now let's go to the next period of time. So what we have is, okay, so the previous one, the hardest time I said, was from the 70s to the 90s. So what do we have then? Then we have something that has been called recovery. Sometimes you can find it as resurgence. Sometimes you can read it as the prodigious, not sure how to say that word. Should have looked it up before. Okay. The prodigious decade of fandom. Okay. And this one goes from the 90s, where the last one took place, and it goes all the way to 2005. And I'll let you know why 2005 is a very important years. But 90s to 2005, we have this period, this recovery period. I like that one, the recovery period or resurgence. So the dictatorship ended, and basically this is a period of time where a whole new identity emerged, a whole new movement and group of authors and new ideas, new visions. So a whole new identity emerged that formed this period of time. And the characteristic of this period of time, as the name would imply, also one of the names, is that a very important fandom was starting to build up. Some group, there was this group of people that started to feel as some kind of a community or belonging to something particular. And you know that science fiction tends to create this kind of group of people, the fandom and associations and all that. So this is an era of a new identity. Fandom is important. Also fanzines, like magazines, but not professional, like made by fans. And at this period of time, you can mention Luis Saavedra as someone really, really important. He's also one of the people that I mentioned that have worked a lot to build this history. But at this time, he was like his golden moment in terms of what he was doing, of building this fandom and also creating these fanzines. And mainly at this time, we can mention Phobos and Taucero as very important places for authors to publish their stories. So at this period of time, magazines were very important, fanzines. But that was what was going on at this time. It was mostly about stories being published in that way, with this new identity, a new fandom, a new way of approaching science fiction, a lot of short stories, a lot of magazines. That was the main thing that would characterize this period of time. So some authors that I can mention, once again, Luis Saavedra. At that time, he published many short stories. He was also an editor. Nowadays, I'm going to show you a book that he recently published. Recommend it. It's recently, but his work, many of these short stories date from back in those days. So Luis Saavedra, as I mentioned, very important, great guy. Also we have Rodrigo Juri at this time too, when he started publishing many things. Great friend of mine. I admire him a lot. He's probably one of my favorites science fiction authors, and he mainly publishes short stories. That's mainly his thing, and you can find it published in several places. But I'm just gonna show you one of the anthologies where he appears. This is Espacio Austral, which is a Chilean-Argentinian collaboration. We also have Diego Muñoz Valenzuela at that time, which is another very important author. He wrote Flores para un Cyborg. And also we have Darío Oces, who's got a really nice and cool book of that period of time. Chile 2010. The name of the book is 2010, Chile en Llamas. Great dystopia. Very recommended. And also this period of time, a new association came. The Science Fiction Club was no longer working around. A new one came out called SOCHIF, which meant it's the acronym for the Chilean Society It was the Chilean Society of Fantasy and Science Fiction. Then that one disbanded, and a new one formed that was called Ficcionautas. And then, so at this period, we had two new associations, and Ficcionautas was the last one about that time, the third, and that's the main identity. That's the main identity of this period of time. Then, a new one. This one's very interesting. One of my favorite periods, and one that I'm going to mention now, because it's very fresh. So, 2005. I said 2005 was going to be a very important year, and it is. It was a very important year that marks a new era, a new period. And the name that this period of time has received are Boom. Great name. A boom. You know, huh? Yeah. Boom, or a new golden age with question mark, or second foundation. You see, so the name is very intense. So this is a very intense period of time. What do we have here? This one starts in 2005, as I mentioned. Two very important things happened at this time that would mark a very important moment. First one, the creation, the foundation, basically, of a publishing house, of a publishing house, which is Puerto de Escape. Yes, there, Puerto de Escapes. This publishing house was founded in 2005, and then they published this anthology in 2006, if I remember correctly. Sorry. So 2005, Puerto de Escape was founded. That was one of the things that's very, very important. So we have this new publishing house. What's the importance of this? This would become the first. I don't like saying first because you never know if someone's gonna find something. But let's say this publishing house marked the beginning of an era in terms of independent publishing houses. When I say independent, it only means that it's not one of the super big publishing transnational, multinational, international, interplanetary publishing houses, you know, like the typical ones that we all know. So this was like the first one that would work outside of those big ones, and that would specialize in fantastic literature with a main focus on science fiction, but also publishing fantasy and horror and all that. But this was very important. And then, the founder of it is Marcelo Novoa, one of the scholars that I mentioned first, and they published this anthology that would it has many of the authors that I've mentioned throughout all this video. So that was a big moment. This publishing press would be the example for many others to come. At least in the origins of its foundation. And the second very important thing that happened in this period of time is this. Let me show you. You all know this. Probably everyone knows this. If you like science fiction and you read science fiction published in Spanish, you have probably most certainly heard about this novel. This is the newest edition. You may not recognize the cover, but you probably already know what I'm talking about. So, this book came out of that year too. Yggdrasil by Jorge Baradit. And this was a big thing. It's a novel that people still, up to this day, talk about, analyze, or write about. I mean, this was a big thing. And it's a really good novel, by the way. So these two things that happened gave birth to this second foundation, this boom, this perhaps new golden era. So big things. I mean, Jorge Baradit, as you may know, nowadays he does not work on science fiction anymore. He's dedicated to other things. He now works on on Chilean history mainly, and also he's doing politics right now. But so those were the two main moments. But also in this second foundation, other important things that would happen are first, at this period of time, the group Poliedro, which is a group of authors, was formed. This is a group of authors that will publish anthologies. It's important because it marks something that hadn't happened before, which is the creation of a proper movement. And also, in this period of time, something really great happened, which is that one of our authors, Roberto Sangüesa, this author actually won, not one, but 2 UPC awards. Okay, so these are his short novels, Bis and El Año del Gato, The Year of the Cat. And this is amazing. And it's like, if you are someone from outside of Chile or something like that, I mean, winning the UPC, perhaps not today, but at this period of time, winning the UPC was like winning a nebula. That was probably what it meant. You can read about the UPC award. UPC is for University, la Universidad Politécnica de Cataluña, which means, like the Polytechnic University of Catalonia. I don't know in English. But it's like a nebula. It's like a nebula award. So big thing. And what else can I say? I mean, this is a great author. It's not read that much because his books were not published in Chile. This editions, I bought them from Spain, where the UPC award happens. So even though he's probably the author with the most important awards that we have, even today, it's not widely read because of distribution issues. But he is great. He's a dentist, by the way. He lives in the south. If you follow ALCIFF, the association, you may encounter him because he's still around working with us, doing cool stuff. And by the way, the UPC award, you can look it up. And Brian Aldiss, I guess you know him. He once mentioned that it probably was the most important European award for science fiction, probably outside the English language. I'm not sure the context where he said that, but it was a big deal. And last but not least, something very important that happened, the second foundation. To finish this concept of this period, I have to mention something that makes me really happy, a little bit proud, but I don't want to say proud. Gotta be humble. No, but something that really cool that happened at this period of time is that Chile actually had its first official participation in an American science fiction convention. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Capclave. That's my name, yes. So it's real. It was not a dream. I was there. It's been such a long time. I really missed this time. I mean, I had such a great time. But anyway, so back in 2015, I was living in the USA, and I became a member of the WSFA. There it says, the Washington Science Fiction Association. And basically, in one of their Capclaves, one of their conventions, they allowed me, which I appreciate up to this day, thank you very much. They allowed me to talk about Chilean science fiction. And I had the support of many good friends from here in Chile, people that I have mentioned before in this video, mainly Rodrigo Juri, Marcelo Novoa, Luis Saavedra, Mario Bustos Ponce, Jose Hernandez. We actually worked on that. I have a video on my channel about that. It was a big thing because we actually got to leave material, to leave some leave, it's not the word, we were able to provide information about Chilean science fiction in English so it could be widely read and all that, and I appreciate it. So great moment. Anyway, so that's the boom or new golden age or second foundation period for you all. To round it up, it was basically the moment where the specialized publishers emerged, which marks something really important. And we have some really great books, awards, so it was truly like something completely new and completely amazing, basically.
Ukulele lessons Monday mornings, and I'll give you ukulele lessons
And that brings us to the last period of time. Here, of course, I can't say many things because it's too close to my own period of time. In terms that I'm always I don't like to I mean it's hard to say the important things that happen when you yourself are living in those years. I want to be neutral with this channel. I want to be objective. So, but what do we have from 2005 up to 2017? That was the second foundation. What happens is in 2017, the current era begins. There is no name for it yet. We don't have a name for what's been going on since 2017, but we're living it. And what happens? What marks the beginning of a new era? Mainly two things. Well, you have to remember that we are coming from a really good period of time to this one. And what marks the beginning of this is, first, the first encounter, the first convention, the first literary convention dedicated to the fantastic literature and science fiction here in Chile, with the support of very important institutions. That happened in 2017, and that was very important. You know, we had the first very serious convention, literary convention, mainly carried out by the academia. So that marked a new moment, you know, like the fandom and the academia finally meeting, becoming friends. So it was a big moment. Let me show you. I think I have that poster that I have over there. Yeah, I put it in the wall because it was something really cool. That posters is one of the things that are related to those events. That's actually from the second one. But in 2017, the first one of those events happened. Big thing, big convention. We have three big institutions backing it up: the University of Chile, the Catholic University of Chile. Probably those two are the biggest ones, the one with more impact in those in social terms. Are two of the big universities, I want to say, and also a corporation known as Letras de Chile, the Letters of Chile. So this big event happening, as I'm saying, it was mainly an academia thing. So it's not like a WorldCon type of event. It was more an academic one. But it was awesome because everyone could go. That was another thing. Even though academia people were giving the conversations and all those things, you as a fan, as a reader, as a regular person, not academia person, you could go. So it was a great moment. That marked the first thing of 2017. And secondly, and because of that encounter where many people met and got updated with what was going on, the fourth association of science fiction was born here in Chile. And that's ALCIFF. We have met, which I have mentioned many times before. That was the year that ALCIFF, which is the acronym for the Chilean Literary Association of Science Fiction and Fantastic Literature. That was a year when it was formed, 2017, September. And there had been, 10 years have passed since the last association, 10 years. And then a new one was created, which is working up until this day, ALCIFF. So, academia plus ALCIFF, a new era. ALCIFF is not an academic association. It's more like a fandom association in the classical term of science fiction association. But it is merged with the academia. There are members in ALCIFF that are fans, readers, but also writers, multi-award writers, and just regular writers, editors, and scholars. So those two elements started this period of time. But also, the other thing that's very important, and here's where and this is what's going on right now. Also, with all this going on, everything that started in the previous period of time, as I said, the foundation of this specialized publishing houses, publishing presses, here in this new time, it's like growing exponentially, and it's being great because now we are producing a lot of science fiction, as we hadn't done this before in this amount of quantity. Of course, when you start producing a lot of quantity, quality starts being something that you want to analyze. But the mere fact that now that we have quantity, we are more focused. I say this because it's something that's been said. The fact that we now have a lot of quantity and now we are focusing on quality speaks very good about this period of time. At least I think that. Because finally we have a proper moment where you can easily find new books, new authors coming out every month. And that's great. That's great. I have personally been involved in this world, in the science fiction world, probably since more than 12 years. Of course, I read since I was a little child, but involved in this world probably 10, 12 years. And I can say that there was not that much material before. Now you have a lot of independent publishing presses that are so great to look at. I mean, I enjoy a lot seeing how many publishing houses are giving their best, trying to come up with great novels, with great stories, trying to promote new authors, finding new voices, and it's a great time. I mean, it's happening right now, so this is the moment where you will find different voices saying different things about this moment. I am an optimistic. Of course, you're gonna find people that are gonna say stuff about this period of time, but it's happening. It's history happening. I don't know, but I can just tell you the characteristic of the period we're living now. That it doesn't even have a name. It's just present time. But in summary, closing this idea, that we have a really strong, strong is a tough word. Strong is a strong word. We have we have a strong association. Let's just say strong. We have strong association. We are in touch with the academia, and we have many publishing, small presses, independent publishing presses that are working and doing their best, and that's what's going on in Chile. And also, as you can imagine, in this period of time, we're starting to, and because of the pandemic and all that, that's happening nowadays, we are starting to connect with the rest of Latin America in a really nice way. We're starting to have both a Chilean scenario, but also a Latin American scenario in terms of science fiction, including Spain, of course. And this is great. I mean, this is great, and that's going to be something that I'll be talking in another video about what's going on in the rest of Latin America. But things are going really nice. I mean, I am enjoying it. I like it. I'm having fun. I really enjoy living this. So what else can I tell you? Oh, so in this sense of Chile expanding to other countries, we're also living an internationalization, like going outside, not only the Spanish-speaking world. And I can mention that currently Chile actually has two authors that are members of the SFWA, the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, which is a big institution. So there are two authors, Rodrigo Juri, that I mentioned, and myself. But it's a great place. I mean, and we also have P.A. Cornell, also belonging to the association, but she lives in Canada. She went there a long time ago, but I think she counts as Chilean. I like to think that, P.A. Cornell. So she became a member of ALCIFF recently, so big hi to her. Haven't spoken to her personally, but so if we count her, let's say we have 3 Chilean members of the SFWA. which is awesome. And that's it. We have gone through all the periods of time in terms of Chilean science fiction. Long video, huh? Long video. What else can I say? Oh, okay. I remember something. I would usually end this here because in present times, I'm really cautious about mentioning some authors because I may not mention other authors, and that's always a thing. You know, I don't want to forget anyone. But let's use Luis Saavedra, that I mentioned here before, who is also an expert, one of the masters. That he's doing certain presentations, classes, exposition, conversations in programs funded, backed up by the government, like government supported things, and he's been doing many talks about science fiction. So he's teaching a lot of science fiction to a wider audience. So great there, Luis. And in the words of Luis, in one of the last conversations, he, in terms of authors that he would mention, I'm saying he because I don't want to sound biased. I don't want to go there, but he mentioned this. So, and there the authors are. Well, thank you. I show up in the picture. There's me. Thank you, Luis. Thank you for remembering me. And the other authors that he mentions as the newer voices that he liked are, I have books, of course. He mentions Eva van Kreimer. Here's a book of her. And he also mentions Andrés Olave as another author to keep in mind, in sight nowadays, Chilean science fiction. So that's it. You know, this always happens to me. When I get to the last period of time, I don't know what to say, what not to say, because many things are happening and I cannot summarize the moment. And that's about the history of Chilean science fiction. Woof. So, I think I said it all. I think this is everything I have to say. Now I think that now I'm not gonna speak about this anymore, and I'm just gonna show people this video. So in summary, we have 7 periods of times: origins or foundation, prelude or modern era, the golden or almost golden age, decline and rebound or the hardest time, recovery or resurgence or the prodigious decade of the fandom, the boom or a new golden age or second foundation, and the present times, current times, ALCIFF times, I don't know times, and that's it. I'm thinking if I have something else. Am I forgetting something? Okay, that's it for today. Long video, something that I wanted to do a long time ago. Hulky has been chilling all this time here next to me. He's been paying attention. He always listens. And well, that's it. I don't know. That's it. That's about Chilean science fiction. Hope you like this video. Remember, this is the idea of this channel. Of course, this is a long video. I'm not sure how many of you are gonna stay all the way until this exact moment, but if you did, thank you very much. I do enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking about this, so I'm just happy by mentioning it, by saying all this stuff. So, and that's it. Let's keep on rocking. I mean, I don't know. We gotta keep making science fiction. And remember, if you like science fiction, I don't know what else to say. Okay, thank you very much. That's it for today. That's the end of it. Hope you liked this. Feel free to share this video. Feel free to leave me a comment. Remember, there are much more authors and books that I mentioned here, of course. And that's it. I'm gonna try to put some references down below, so you can look them up. And if I don't do that in this video, I'm gonna put them on anyway later on. I'm also working on a paper to write something about this. and there you will find all the reference that I use and the papers and books and texts from where I have learned what I have learned. So thank you very much for staying here. I think like I need a goodbye phrase or something, but I don't know what to say. Like, what can I say? And that's it from your favorite dermatologist. Let's have that. That's gonna be my my word to say goodbye. And that's it from your favorite dermatologist, who also happens to write and read science fiction. But that's the passion. But that's his passion. I'm making the skin look nice. Okay, that's it. I think I'm gonna go insane now. I've been recording for too long. Bye!